Tuesday on this fine Tuesday afternoon. With that, since it's 12 o'clock, we're going to give a couple more minutes in case for any stragglers. But in the meantime, if you guys want to type into the chat your name, your major, your expected graduation date, and then your plans for after graduation, so we can get a little bit of a better idea of who we're talking to, what questions you guys may ask, or what information you guys may need.
Hey everybody, I'm not sure what's going on with my camera, but I'm glad that you all are here. I'm excited to get started. Thank you, Rick, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And as we're waiting as well, this will be a recorded session. So if you guys are uncomfortable with your faces on camera, feel free, to turn your cameras off. Or if you do want to show your face, also feel free to do that. Hi, Jesse. Thank you for sharing. You're definitely in the right place for anything law school.
Absolutely. While we're waiting, is everyone from the Florida area? Do we have any Midwesterners or anyone from outside of Orlando?
Not today.
Not today. That's perfect. I don't have much ties to Florida, but I spent 12 years in Louisiana, so at least regionally, understand the plight of the palmetto bugs and hurricanes.
And the humidity.
Yeah.
From Pennsylvania, moved to Florida 2 years ago. All right, so I think that's enough time to let any stragglers join, and I'll let you take it away, Rick.
Cool. Thank you. Let's see. That wonderful. Everyone can see this? All right. Yeah, so thank you all for having me. Well, I'm the first of many Tuesday talks, so it's great to be the inaugural talk. My name's Rick Bolte, and I'll be doing a admissions 101, demystifying the application process. So basically, I'm following the recommended format, an overview of Cincinnati law, followed by the topic of today, which is demystifying the application process, and then question and answer. But honestly, you can just unmute yourself and ask any questions, because I probably won't see the chat function until the end. But also, I don't want to just talk at you for, several minutes. So feel free to interrupt me whenever you want. So, yeah, so first off, a little bit about University of Cincinnati College of Law. If you're unaware of the geography of Ohio, Cincinnati is in the bottom left corner of the state of Ohio. We're 240 years old almost. We're named after a Roman dictator, which is kind of weird. We're named after a guy named Lucius Cincinnatus, if you're ever wondering why we have that silly name. Size of the city of Cincinnati, about 2.2 metro. Big enough to have 3 professional sports teams. And when I was looking at little facts about Cincinnati, here's some fun little firsts. We were the first city to establish a Jewish hospital, first municipal fire department, and also we had the first fire pole, of all fun things. We had the first professional baseball team, or the Red Stockings. You might know them as the Reds. First concrete skyscraper built in the U.S., and we had the first evening game planner lights with the Red Stockings. At some point, which is crazy, if you're a sports fan, the Reds were the southernmost baseball team at one point, which is hilarious. A little bit about Cincinnati law. We're established in 1833. We're the fourth oldest and continuously run law school. So we've been around, I think it's our 192nd class, maybe 193rd. The image you see, though, we moved into a brand new building 2 years ago. So we may be close to 2 centuries old, but our building is 2 years old. So we're juxtaposition. University of Cincinnati, 53,000 students. The law school only has about 400, though. We have our new dean of about a year, Haider Al-Hamoudi, and probably our most famous alum is William Howard Taft, and you'll see him right behind me. He was the dean, he was president, and chief justice of the United States. So only president to do both of those things. So you might ask, who are we? And this kind of ties into my topic about demystifying the application process. There's 4 of us in our office, and each law school will have between, if it's a small school, like my buddy at Lincoln Memorial in Knoxville, there might be 2. Some schools like Harvard or Georgetown might have 10 or 15. For us, we have 4. We have our illustrious dean, Cassandra Jeter Bailey. She's the senior assistant dean for admissions, financial aid, and marketing. I honestly cut down her title just to fit it in that box, so hopefully she doesn't see this. There's my colleague who's on the call, that's Diana Irving, who's the Assistant Director of Law Admissions Financial Aid. Tim Sievers, our Program Coordinator. And my name is Rick Bolte. I probably should have introduced myself at the beginning of this. I'm the Director of Admissions and Enrollment Marketing. I'm a Cincinnati native, but I spent 12 years in Louisiana. I went to law school down there at Loyola, and I practiced for a little bit in New Orleans and Baton Rouge. So I mention this because I can kind of wear whatever hat you need me to, the law student hat, the lawyer hat, or the administrator hat, just depending on which one you want to ask. The one thing I didn't go law school here, so I don't know what it was like to, have Professor Bilianis for like civil procedure. So anything else, though, I can kind of talk you through. All right. So at Cincinnati Law, we have a traditional 3-year program for JD. We also have what we call flex time, which you can take up to 4 years or 5 years. These take fewer courses over those in the fall and the spring semesters. We have several dual degrees, a JD MBA, a JD what we call WIGS, Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies. Community planning, we have a great DAP program, so a lot of architecture around here. We were actually the first university to have co-ops, so we have a really great history of engineering and design. We also have an MA and PhD in political science. When I talk about dual degrees, it's a way for you to get 2 degrees in fewer years. So instead of 5 years for the JD MBA, for example, you do 4. So these are the programs that we offer. If you're wondering what our incoming class was like, we're a big university, not as big as Central Florida, but 53,000. Our College of Law is small, 137. Age range 20 to 49%. Here's some stats, and everyone always wants to know about medians and 25th percentiles and 75th percentiles. So a little run through. I'll talk about this stuff a little later. We had 40 different majors, though. So anything from political science to music, it doesn't really matter. All you need is a bachelor's degree, but we'll talk about that once again. So this is what our class was like. When you look at the curriculum of most law schools, the first year of law school is pretty much the same everywhere. We take common law the first year, which is usually a second year class. But yeah, if you're looking at us, if you're looking at Tulane or Harvard, you're going to take classes that look similar to this. So this is what our first year looks like. And then after your first year, it's kind of a choose your own adventure. You can take whatever classes that might interest you. So at the highest level, we have what we call concentrations, corporate law, international legal studies, social justice. And they kind of tie into each other. Corporate and international, for example, Procter & Gamble and Kroger are based in Cincinnati. So anything from Tide to pretty much any product P&G makes, it's the corporate offices are here, but they're produced overseas. So you'll see a lot of like interplay between the two. But yeah, when you think of like what a law school offers, this is what we offer. So big 3 concentrations: corporate, international, social justice. And then we also offer what we call pathways. We have classes in certain disciplines that we know for a fact will be available every semester. So things like public interest law, health law, criminal law, business and entrepreneurship. So when you go into your second or third year, especially at UC, we offer a lot of different types of classes. So for example, what type of classes might I take? And this is an example of just Monday for fall 2024. These are the classes we offer on a Monday. The red classes are first year classes, but everything else, these are all electives. So some students might take negotiations, some students might take healthcare law. So if you're wondering like what a law school offers at UC, this is what we offer on Monday. So a lot of different things you can study. Student experiences, what we offer our students after the first and second year. Law school used to be 3 years of book learning, then we kick you to the curb and say, figure it out yourself. That's a horrible model. We want to make sure that you have a lot of experiences to learn the law while you're in law school. So we have 4 journals, the Law Review, Human Rights Quarterly, we have an intellectual property and a human rights and immigration journal. So a lot of academic writing. We have over 35 student organizations, and they range from things like Federalist Society to the Board Game Society. So there's a lot of affinity groups, there's a lot of interests. So if you like real estate law, you can do that. Or we have just fun stuff like board games, and there's a hunting, there's a adventure, people do go hiking, all that fun stuff. Similarly, moot court, think of mock trial. That's the appellate version of it. We have trial practice, which is similar to moot court, Ryan competitions, American Ag Court. And then, second and third year, we have 6 centers: Center for Practice, Global Practice of Law, Race, Gender, and Social Justice, Ohio Innocence Project, so doing exonerations, and then human rights is another one. And the last one, your third year, you might be working or might have an externship, but we also offer clinics, so you can actually practice. What's cool about Cincinnati is there's 9 law schools in Ohio. Even though we're a small state, there's 9 law schools, but we're the only one in the city of Cincinnati. And because we're such an old city, we have things like the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. So if you think of the 13 appellate courts, the Sixth Circuit is based in Cincinnati. So we have an appellate court that's 15 minutes away. Ohio Innocence Project, if you want to do exonerations and help your second and third year, you can do that. If you actually want to get licensed provisionally in Ohio on an apprenticeship basis and represent clients, we have domestic violence, indigent client legal access. And on the tech side, patent and trademark. So there's a lot of opportunities to learn the law, basically. And then at the end, admissions is going to be your bookmark at the beginning of law school. At the end, we have Center for Professional Development. We have 4 staff members who help you try to get jobs. And if you look at, look at the employment, this is kind of the breakdown of where our students last year. We don't have this past year's yet, but 2 years ago, this is kind of the breakdown. Some went to law firms, some went to public interest, some went to the judiciary, like as a law clerk. And then these are some of the law-related jobs that some of our students got. So forensic science, corrections, law clerk, magistrate. So a lot of opportunities that our law students go into. All right, now I talked about Cincinnati itself, but why we're here is, I guess, any questions so far, I should say. No? Okay. We're here to demystify the application process. So I'll kind of go over a bunch of different things about the application process that you might want to know going into this cycle, which just started for a lot of us. So just to start off, what is law school? First thing you should know the jargon. So technically, there is a difference between lawyers and attorneys. A lawyer is someone that's trained in the law, and for pretty much most law students, that means going to an American Bar Association accredited law school. Pretty much every state, except for California, requires you to go to law school. California has a weird apprenticeship program that you can also do, but we're not going to get into that. College of Law, School of Law, there's 197 as of last year. I think there's 2 more provisional ones. So there's some schools closed, some schools open. We're always hovering around 200, but as of the last I saw on the ABA website, it's 197. They're in all states except for Alaska. So once you become a lawyer, then it's like, okay, if I want to write Esquire behind my name, what do I need? So attorneys need to, become a lawyer, so you have to go to law school, and then you have to take a state bar. Every state except for Wisconsin kind of requires you to take a bar. In Wisconsin, you can go to Wisconsin or Marquette, and then you get waived into the bar. Everywhere else, though, you have to take the bar exam. And for most states, it's something called the Uniform Bar Exam, the UBE. Unfortunately, Florida is a little different. You have to take your own bar. So there's all that. And then a little visual representation of where are all the law schools. You can kind of see a lot of them, several in Florida, but just a fun little graphic to show you where you might practice law. All right, more for what is the jargon? You know, every law school is going to have a Juris Doctor and a JD, and this is the red font is my pretty much saying what UC offers. So this is my opportunity to highlight what we offer. So shameless plugging right there. So every law school offers a JD, but some law schools offer other things. You see, for example, we have LLM certificates. But then some schools that you can take a higher level courses, get an SJD, JSD is a doctor of law. It's a little different than JD, but the JD is what you need to take the bar in every state. One thing you should know also is everyone has their own type of progress. So when you're looking at law schools, know the time commitment. Most law schools will be between 89 and 91 credit hours. UC, for example, is 90 credit hours. We offer full-time flex time, but there are a lot of schools that offer full-time, part-time, flex time, evening, weekends. So a school like can't really talk about other schools, but some schools may offer you like 1 week a semester and then you fly in on weekends. Some schools might offer you the ability to go at night, so completely evening program. And then some have flex. And then I want to say 5 or 6 law schools right now are actually are accredited to do fully online. So 2 law schools in Ohio, several 3 or 4 across the country. And I feel like the trend is going to be more towards a hybrid. And then some schools offer accelerated, so you can take it in 2 years instead of 3. So when you're looking at law school, just know that it's no longer you have to go for 3 years in person. You do have options, but know that every law school, has their different availabilities. If that makes sense. Any questions so far? Well, all right. Some questions you should ask: what areas of law interest me? Where do I want to practice? And these are just, can I afford law school? What law school environment will I best perform best in? Just things you start thinking about when you're applying, but these are more rhetorical that you should ask yourself. All right, know the difference. Every law school has their own deadlines and key dates. So yeah, for example, applications open, they vary by school. Deadlines vary by school. So when you're looking at different law schools, make sure you know when their deadlines are. Some schools might have early binding decisions. Or one of our counterparts, Ohio State, for example, has a fall requirements. Some schools have a hard deadline. Maybe it's February 1st. Some schools have a rolling admission. For Cincinnati Law, ours opens September 1st. We have 3 deadlines, each of varying severity. So we have a priority on February 1st, which just means we don't charge you an application fee until afterwards. We have a recommended, but then our hard deadline is 7/15. So the key takeaway for this is be mindful of each school's deadlines. And just one more shameless plugging of UC. This is kind of what our year looks like. Yeah, our application opened on the 1st, and we will take applications up until my misspelled Tuesday of July 15th. So up until 11:59, you can apply to us. But yeah, make sure when you're looking at different schools that you know their deadlines. Now prepare to apply. What makes it really easy is all law schools go through lsac.org. So if you have not become accustomed with LSAC, you will, because they're the ones you apply through. The 2 big requirements also for law school is that you go have a bachelor's degree and then you take a test. There are 3 testing of options that each law school has. So the LSAT, LSAT, every school accepts the LSAT. So that's one option. But some schools can offer different testing options. So for UC, for example, we offer the JD Next. Some schools everyone's allowed to take the GRE. We don't, but some schools do. So when you're looking at the test, create your account at LSAC, then look at the different tests and see which might be better and which schools take which tests. So if you're good at math, the GRE might be a good option. If you're good at coursework, the JD Next, you take asynchronous classes and you get you take a test based on, legal concepts. And then if you're good at reading comprehension, LSAT might be better. So yeah, just keep in mind every school takes the LSAT, but think of if you're looking at other schools, what tests they take and whether you might want to take a test. Another thing, credential assembly service, you'll become very familiar with that. And when you're preparing this, it sounds really stupid, but research and visit law schools or meet with law school recruiters. You're here, so you're doing that right now, which is great. And I'm not going to get too much into the components because that's a different session in this Talking Tuesdays. But yeah, things that are involved in the application process. CAS report. The CAS report is how they combine different things like the LSAT, your transcripts, letter of recommendation, and you can use that at different schools. Every school, though, is going to have their individualized applications where they ask you specific questions. But also you can upload your personal statement, resume, character and fitness, and addendums. Now, I go back to the LSAT because people are like, okay, take the test. Questions you really need to know and ask yourself is, when should I take the test and why? Does each school evaluate multiple scores? For us, we realize people might have a bad day, so we take the highest of the scores. We're not going to average them. We're not going to take the lowest. So some schools might average them. We take the higher of your test scores. But also, when you're looking at for your first year, sophomore, junior students out there, if you're looking at, applying early, make sure, if the school has a early decision, make sure you take an LSAT, JD Next, or GRE that will have the score in time for you to actually apply. So when you're looking at law school, the LSAT's offered like 8 times a year. So make sure you know when you want to apply and whether that specific test will kind of coincide well with, when you want to apply. Other questions you have to ask yourself, do law schools admit those with scores below their median? And the answer is yeah. You're going to hear a lot about medians and 75th percentiles. And I threw UC's numbers up just to show you that, yeah, we have medians. That's the midpoint was a 158. The GPA is a 381. But our range went from 143 to 172. So when admins say that we take a holistic approach, we really do. Because like someone with a 418 GPA may have had a 143 LSAT. But we'll look at everything. But if you really want to like where the middle 50, look between the 25th and 75th. So for us, 155 to 161, but we have a huge range too. Any questions so far?
There is one in the chat from Emily. She says, I have a question you might go into detail about later.
Yeah.
But how common are scholarships in law school, and are they only based on merit?
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about a little bit of that in a couple slides. So great question, though, and very practical. So yeah, we'll table that for a second. Other questions you want to ask, academic history, what type of transcript do you need to submit? The truth is you have to, for most schools, you have to submit a transcript from every school you've ever been to. So if you're taking like one class at a community college, you have to dig up that transcript and send it to them. So how will admissions committee evaluate my academic transcripts? Some schools gloss over them. For example, I comb through every transcript to make sure you're not taking there's one school in Ohio that has a lot of horseback riding, and I want to make sure you're not taking a lot of those type of classes. So your classes do matter for us. And then is consideration given to graduate classes? It depends on the school. Personal statements, how long should they be? 2 to 3 pages typically. Common things to avoid. Like I said, I'm not going to get too much into the components because that's another presentation. But also, can I use a question that's kind of salient today? Can I use AI to help me in creating my personal statement? A lot of schools haven't tackled this. They don't have a specific answer to it. Because if you think of spell check, that's technically AI. So at what point, some school, so check with every school, see if they have an AI requirement. Because some might say absolutely no AI. Some schools might say, sure, why not? And then can I use the same statement for schools or other prompts? Yeah, some schools have prompts. There's no big issue with using the same personal statement. Just make sure you don't copy and paste the name of the law school, because sometimes and that's why I want to go to University of Kentucky. I'm like, well, that's awkward. That's not us. Letter recommendation also, yeah. something you start thinking about. Do I have relationships with professors? If not, is there an academic a professional that I can keep in mind for letters of recommendation? Not everyone knows a senator. Not everyone knows Oprah, which is an actual example for my prior institution. So we want to make sure that someone can speak to your academic or your professional abilities. So, but yeah, when you're thinking about that, like when you're going through the process, who do I know that can speak to my abilities? That's the most important thing when it comes to letter of recommendation. Addendums, how truthful should I be? Do I have to say everything? Can you use this space to submit a diversity statement? Make sure when you're looking at schools, some schools want you to explain everything. Some schools don't care if you got a MIP in, Gulf Shores, Alabama. So every school will require different addendums, whether it be a diversity statement, character and fitness. So make sure that you go through the application and the requirements for every school. Financial considerations, right? This is where I'll get back to the question about scholarships. Make sure you look at the financial burden you will go through to go to law school. When you're looking at law schools, the average public tuition is $28,800 a year. For in-state, 43 for out-of-state. UC is a little lower. We're 2410 for in-state, 2910 for out-of-state. And then I accidentally put the 54,000 right there. I meant to say average private school tuition, 54,000. There's a range. I think the lowest private school I could find was 26,880, and the most expensive was 76,88, and that's per year. So I don't technically have a scholarship slide, but yeah, everyone will handle scholarships differently. For UC, we offer two different ways. We have merit scholarships, which we'll look at everything, but the heavy hitters are going to be your GPA and your LSAT. And then so the admissions committee says, is this person admitted to law school? And they'll ask, does this person get a scholarship? So for us, I want to say in this incoming class, all but two got a scholarship. And so 97, 98%. And our scholarship last year, the average was 16.9, give or take. So a good portion of our students, get scholarships. And I'll talk about 509 in a second, but yeah. So we also offer need-based adjustments, and that's something you should look at. Most, if not all, law schools offer scholarships. And then, so that's the answer is yes for the for merit-based. But what you should also consider is, can I negotiate scholarships? Some schools say yes, some schools just shut it down and say no. Some schools you get admitted and then they don't tell you your scholarship until like 2 or 3 months later. So keep in mind that every law school, for the most part, gives scholarships, but the way they do it can be a little wonky at times. It's going to be different. And for us, we do need-based adjustments. So that in that situation, you just upload documents from FAFSA, things like that. And also other things to consider: application fees, textbooks, necessary equipment. Textbooks, y'all, are expensive. So a good way to look at that is when you're approaching not only your budget for financial aid, keep in mind things like application fees, textbooks, and any type of equipment. Don't buy a MacBook; they're just way too expensive. Anyway, other things you should think about, like how much does it cost to apply to law school? Here's some prices. So I mentioned the credential assembly service. This is where LSAC is going to get some of their money. So every law applicant needs a CAS. So that's going to be $207. And then they charge $45 per report per school. They do offer some sort of need base. You have to go on their website to look at that, but that's the initial cost for the CAS. And then when you think about the tests, as of last week, these are the prices of each of the tests. The LSAT's $238, the JD Next is $299, GRE is $220. So keep in mind, if you plan on taking the LSAT, GRE, or the JD Next multiple times, that's $238 per test. And then even now they're offering additional costs for like score preview, canceling. So if you opt into that, there are certain costs that are associated with those as well. But yeah, just in terms of what does it cost to go to law school, this is like the initial amount. And then every law school might charge an application fee. For us, for example, we don't charge until no. Next month. We don't charge until February 1st. So our application is open for 10 months. The first 5 months it's free. After that, it's $40. So yeah, a lot of need-based, a lot of merit-based. Make sure you research and apply for scholarships early. And then one little tool that you might want to use, there's something called a 509 report. This will show you all the information about a law school's admissions processes or policies, their employment, and their bar passage. So I just put up UCs, for example, and these are the numbers that we had for last year. And what's great about the 509 report, it goes back 13 years. I wouldn't suggest going that far back, but it goes back for several years, and this is the information for every single law school. So if you want to compare us to a school in California, yeah, you can look up what our grants and scholarships look like. It's a really good tool. So just Google ABA 509. Also, the report it's required by the ABA to be on our front page. So every law school will have their ABA on their front page. And it's a really, really good resource. And the question about scholarships too is there's something called conditional scholarships, and this is where things get a little tricky. Our requirement is that you just are in good standing. First year, I think you keep a 2.0, and then after that, I think it's a 2.3. As long as you're in good standing with the law school, you keep your scholarship. Some law schools will put unrealistic scholarship requirements, like a 3.0, or you have to be in the top 10%. And when you look at their 509 report, it's really telling, because some schools will have a reduction or a loss of maybe half of their students lose their scholarships after their first year. So when you're looking at scholarships at schools, look at the 509 report and make sure there aren't ridiculous number of students losing their scholarships, because I've seen 50-60% for some schools, and it's a little bait and switchy, to be quite honest. Another good thing, if you're looking at third-party scholarships, if you go to Access Lex, they have a data bank for a lot of third parties. Access Lex is a great resource. They're actually a splinter organization from LSAC, and they help with financial literacy. Any other questions about financial aid? Hopefully I covered a lot of it. All right. One thing to also think about is what's my status? There are three. So when you're applying to law school, there are really only three statuses. You're either accepted, you're denied, or you're waitlisted. What makes things a little difficult for you as an applicant is sub-statuses are determined by school. So you might be under review at one school, you might be UE1, you might be confirmed or complete. And every school has their timelines, and every school has, you might be, it's what's called left on red. Some schools might not make a decision for 4 months. Some schools might make a decision in 2 weeks. So when you're looking, comparing your statuses at law schools, just remember that accepted, denied, waitlist, those are the real ones. The other ones are determined by school, and they might, might be different. So timing differs by school. Do I call? It depends. So I'm going to do this graphic to give you kind of an idea of like the volume of law schools or applicants per law school. So we had 1,002 law students applicants last year. Georgetown, for example, had 10,000. So I'm putting up this graphic to show you that we will be here for you, but our volume is so big sometimes that it may take us 2, 3, 4 days to respond, because it is just such a huge volume of students. And usually there's only 2, 3, 4 people in the admissions office. So should you call? Absolutely. But it may take, some time for us to respond. So when you're looking at law schools, like sitting here today, what do I do next? I would say easy way is visit websites. Every school has some sort of visit option. Look at the open houses. See if I can afford to go to the open houses. Some schools offer stipends, or something to think about. And then consult the 509 reports. A few other things to keep in mind. It's okay to apply to other schools. If you're wondering, like, should I mention that I'm applying to other schools? It's fine. I assume that you're applying to other schools. To be quite honest, it'd be weird if you didn't. Ask yourself, can I see myself there for 3 years for a career? Most law schools, you can go anywhere with a law degree. But I think the last statistic that I saw was between 60 and 70% of students stay in the region where they went to law school. So about 2/3 of students do stay in the region. So can I see myself at Cincinnati? Can I see myself, in Jacksonville? Those sort of questions. Ask yourself that. See if you like the city. And that's really why it's really important to visit, because every school has their vibe, every city has their vibe. Law school will always be there, so you can take a year off. We're not going to hold that against you. And even if you're admitted and you decide not to go to law school, you can apply again. It's fine. We understand that life happens. Beware social media. The internet's forever. And yeah, all of us do go to the Reddit pages. It is the bane of my existence. I hate that law admissions Reddit page because some of the stuff is just patently false. And the hurry up and wait goes back to the timelines. You're going to put so much energy into applying, and then you hit submit, and then you just wait. So know and mentally prepare that it's going to be a hurry up and wait situation. This is a very important decision, but there's a process. For us, we go through several rounds of review, similar to most schools. So if you don't see any change in your status for weeks, that's unfortunately normal, especially when we get volumes after certain LSATs. We may get 200 applications in a day. So something to think about. So that is mainly a lot of the stuff. If you have any questions, lawadmissions@uc.edu, and this is my personal email. But I'm going to exit out of here. And how do I do stop share? Okay, there. Yeah, so I see some chat. Is there anything y'all want to know? Okay. Anybody? I'm going to say the application process is, and when should you start it? So yeah, it depends on the great question. Thank you. It depends on the time of year, and it depends on the school. So for us, there are kind of ebbs and flows to an application process. If you apply like the first month, to be quite honest, we're on the road for 2 months, and we won't make decisions until maybe October. So if you're diligent and apply on the first day, it might take a couple months. Usually it's like a 4 to 6 week situation, because what's going to happen is we'll receive your application. It goes through review to make sure we have all the component parts, and then it goes maybe to a counselor, maybe to admissions committee. So I'd say 4 to 6 weeks is a good kind of metric to use when you're mentally preparing for it. Some schools might take 3 months, and that's just unfortunately bad. And then, but yeah, 4 to 6 weeks is usually a good metric. Okay, how much does an admissions office look at a resume and take? We look at everything. So thank you for the question. Good question. We look at everything because one of the things the application process does is we want to make sure that you can handle the rigors of law school. So when we're looking at your resume, not only we're looking like where'd you go to school, what'd you major in, but what were you doing on top of that? Did you have a leadership position? Were you waiting tables the entire time? I mean, that tells me a lot, because that shows me you have people skills, and you can do physically demanding work while you're in school. So extracurriculars are important, but they're more so important. I want to see that you're taking some sort of leadership, or it's some sort of job or professional ability. Like for example, I was a member of a fraternity. I was on the e-board when I was in undergrad, decades ago. So if you're in a fraternity, if you're in an organization, I want to see that you're doing something at a leadership level. So yeah, the extracurricular, they're very important. But we just want to make sure that you're showing us that you can handle the work, basically. That makes sense. Can I attend law school open houses as a junior? Fisher? Yeah, absolutely. You can honestly attend them whenever. Some of the information might change over the next year. Like last year, for example, there were logic games on the LSAT. This year, there aren't. So, yeah, some things might change in the interim. But yeah, we encourage you to attend as many open houses as you can, because, like I said, a lot of times open houses are vibe checks. Like, can I see myself at the school? A good example, I went to Loyola New Orleans. We were across the street from Tulane, and both schools are great. Different cultures, not in a good or a bad way. Just like you walk on those campuses, you're like, oh, the vibe's different. So yeah, absolutely. I'm also in sorority and on exec currently. I've been told by some people that law schools don't care about that. Is that dependent on the law school? I would, yeah, I'll give you the law school. It depends on who is on the admissions committee. For me, I have very positive views because I was in a fraternity. So it'll depend on the faculty or staff member on the admissions committee. One thing I will say, especially if you are an exec at a sorority at a big state school, that's a lot of work. So I see that as a positive because I know what it takes to be like a social chair for whatever organization at a big state school. You're going through policy, you're doing paperwork. So it shows me you're already a mini lawyer. So not a rumor, but I will say it just kind of depends on the admissions committee. I would never say it's a bad thing. It might be a net zero for some people, but for me, yeah, I think it's great. Anybody else? You're very welcome. So how many seniors do we have in this group? Emily's senior. Okay. I'll save all the time in the world, not enough time. You're in that, I'm guessing Fisher, you're a junior, so maybe a smattering of other grades. Yeah. So yeah, as a senior, you're in the final stretches. For those that are juniors, sophomores, or first years, yeah, this is really exploratory. I would really say I don't know everyone on the other Talking Tuesdays, but Daphne at LSU, for example, is fantastic. I know Michael at Notre Dame, he's great. So I really encourage you to go to every single one you can go to because yeah, I mean we're very accessible to a certain extent, and we love talking to students. So I'm glad you're all here. Anybody else? All right.
All right, so if there's no more questions, you guys can always reach out to Rick or the admissions email, yeah, if you want to put it into the chat. And if you have any questions, of course, if you have any questions about preparing for graduate school or anything else in general, feel free to email us at ap@ucf.edu. With that, I want to advertise a couple of quick things before we kind of end. So let me share my screen. So if you guys are able to see my screen and interested in research opportunities, we have the Research and Mentoring Program. Our application extended to Sunday, September 29th instead of September 20th. If you guys are interested, we have the application link down here and the QR code as well. And I'll also copy and paste that into the chat. So please, if you're interested, feel free to reach out to AP at UCF, apply. We love our students. We want to stay connected with you guys and give you guys a lot of opportunities to build up your resume, CV, research skills, everything else. And with that, we also have, are you guys able to see that? The new calendar? All right. So with that, we also have our fall calendar out. And with that, I don't know if it's on here. Where is it? Okay. Maybe it's not on here, but we do have the graduate prep intensive and then the graduate school fair coming up. Let me see if I can find that really quick. And if not, here's also the link to that. I highly recommend you guys join, come be a part of it, apply RSVP, because again, there's going to be a lot more people like Rick who are representing their graduate programs, talking about admissions, teaching you different ways to, be a competitive applicant for a graduate and professional school. And then I think that's about it. We also have our survey here that I will post into the chat if you guys can take a couple of minutes as well to do that survey. It would greatly, thank you, Dr. Tonos, for that. If you can see into the chat, we have our graduate and professional school fair flyer. Again, highly recommend you guys come speak to representatives from different graduate and professional schools. And then with that, we also have the survey, like I was saying. Again, it takes a few minutes. It's just how we improve these sessions to better benefit you guys. I think Dr. Tonos is putting more information. Again, thank you so much. All right. And so let's see, is there anything else I'm missing, Dr. Tonos or Kelsey, you guys can think of?
You did great, Carmel. Thank you so much, and thank you, Rick. We just put here in the chat the intensive and the fair flyers, and we also included the Talk Tuesday series flyer, so you guys can have an idea of the upcoming sessions.
So yeah, with that, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to Rick or AAP. Otherwise, I hope you guys all have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.